Actually, we're about to start and it was planned that we have 30 minutes. So I would like to just start.
Okay.
That means that for anybody who's not talking, please mute your microphones. And I'm sure that you know the Zoom etiquette, that if you have any questions, you can raise your hand. Maybe we can just do it very quickly to see whether you really know how to raise your hand. Anybody? No, I mean on Zoom, you know how to do that? Yes, thank you, Ligitas. So this is how we will be interacting today, by raising a hand. Okay. First, we will have Romas, yes, introducing a little bit about his organization, Baltic Gastronomy Leaders, who are bringing this beautiful opportunity of having reimbursements for all the European brands to enter Korean market. Then we will have Andrew and Brad and June introduce themselves just a bit, and you can ask them all questions that you have about Korean market and see what opportunities there are. We already held a webinar where Andrew told his full story about his experience in food and business that's spanning more than 10 years. So we can send you a YouTube link to review that material. So we will not be going into details with that today, but we will be going into very operational topics, and we will finalize by showing you what would be the next steps after the exhibition in June for this year. So Romas, please start and introduce the Baltic Gastronomy Leaders in brief.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Also, what's happening? I have a request for those who are attending. I see some people we don't know, so maybe you can write your company in the name of the Zoom account. Please, it will be fine for us to understand who is attending. So, okay, about our organization. I represent Baltic Gastronomy Leaders, and we have this project with Litao in China and in South Korea. We are a food export organization from Lithuania. We are alliance of different food organizations like grain organization, dairy organization, drinks, soft drinks, and alcoholic drinks. So we combine all of them, and we work with export in different markets of the world, in the United States, in Japan, in China, South Korea, Kazakhstan, Ukraine. We used to work. We have stopped the project for the moment, but we will come back later, and we have big hopes for that. So our main activities are introducing companies, introducing food producers to different markets of the world. So we participate in trade fairs, we organize trade visits, trade missions, events for business to business. We organize things for consumers, and also we provide European Union funding, so we can have quite good prices for entering new markets, and we help our producers to do this. With our projects, we promote quality of European Union food products, general quality, specific schemes like organic or protected geographical indications. So we have quite a big basket of products with our project. I will not list them, just to know that there is a lot of them. Okay, so what we do some online activities usually, and we represent our products online. We do some public relations. It depends on the projects. We do a lot of events for business, for consumers. We participate in trade fairs. We organize business missions and business events, like you can see in the photos, in different countries, to help businessmen meet each other when they come from different countries. Also, we do promotion at points of sales, promotion for consumers. So what you can see, it's trade stands in supermarkets, tastings in supermarkets and different shops, shelf talkers, and sometimes we do other things, but we can create and we can use to promote our food for consumers. So basically, this is the information about our organization. And our projects usually and mostly they are open for all companies to join. We try to help everyone, especially not very big companies which has no possibility to work on their own budgets. So we help with European funding and we can help them to succeed in foreign markets. So thank you, and let's continue about Korea.
Thank you, Romas. It's nice to explain what exactly is that you do and give examples. I think that's very useful for the companies to think about. So we all gathered here today because there is this exclusive, unique opportunity for a brand to be represented in Korea in June 23rd for just 500 euros. And I think the benefits will be great. But before we get into benefits, because I know that June and Brad, our Korean partners, have a bit tight schedule today. So we would like to talk to them first a little bit, and then we will go into details. So let me just introduce Andrew, who would be the person leading the Korea project. Funny story, he's a course mate of my former he's a cousin of my former course mate. I studied in Fudan here in Shanghai, and I had a beautiful Korean course mate. She was studying PhD in sports, and she is one of quite successful and famous Pilates trainer in Korea. She had her own studio, and so I spent maybe about 2 months trying to find the right kind of partner in Korea. And she said, well, how about you just talk to my cousin? And that's how we have Andrew with us today. Andrew, maybe you can just take over and tell us a little bit about yourself, and then tell us a little bit about Brad and June.
Thank you, Lena. I think you flatter me. My name's Andrew. I was born in Korea, grew up in New Zealand, and now I live in Indonesia. I've been here for about 16 years, something like that. Currently, I run a company called Seed Origin in Indonesia, where we specialize in sweet potato farming. The details are there on the screen. Before that, June and Brad and I, 3 of us worked to launch Welligo. Welligo is a sweet potato porridge brand. Basically, it's a pouched, ready to drink or ready to consume product for those who are living in a busy lifestyle. So we launched that and ran that company for about 4 years in Korea. Before that, I was in New Zealand. I was in hospitality industry and hotel. I think I did almost every department in hotel industry. So F&B was one of my main division that I worked in for quite lengthy time. So yeah, and I think, like Lena said, my in-depth details about myself and my background, you can check that out on the YouTube that Lena will send. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Okay, and I have with me here Brad and June. June, you can tell by the name on the account. It's June Yang, and we have Brad the 4th way. Yeah, that's Brad. So I'll start with Brad first. Brad has been in F&B industry for 15 years in Korea, and he worked in major brands, food and cosmetic actually brands in Korea. He worked in R&D division for a long time, and I don't know if this is relevant for you, but he's the one who launched a sweet potato stick product that we're selling right now in Seed Origin. He's the guy who designed it. He's the guy who actually introduced it to the whole Korean market, and that became the market standard for Korea actually. And it's been selling, many companies been selling the exact same product that Brad developed for the last 7, 8 years also. And a little bit about June. June has about 10 years of experience in F&B industry. Mainly, he specialized in importing food, and when we worked in Welligo, he was the guy who would actually bridge Indonesian side and Korean side, and he's the one who would fly to Korea very often. He was based in Indonesia before. He would fly to Korea very often and partner up or work with Brad very, very tightly together, while I produce the raw material from here and send to Korea. June has studied in Sydney University, and he did an exchange program with Harvard University too. His degree is not really related to F&B, but he has seen what the industry like from a very lowest point actually with me, meaning like we've gone through we've surveyed and studied the farming of sweet potatoes and distribution side of it until we launched Welligo together. So we handled all the way up to packaging, marketing, and actually distributing in Korea as well. So these two guys are, I can confidently say, they are experts in the field, and I'm sure they will be able to help this project in a great way. Okay, so a little bit of little introduction about them. I think we can move on to the next slide. Yeah, so we actually
So yeah, I had a few questions myself to Andrew, June, and Brad. And after we discuss these questions, the brands are welcome to ask them any questions they have. But last week, I was talking to this one man who has been working with Korea, Japan, and China for the past 20 years. And he remembers there was a time he visited Korea in the 90s. And in the airport, there was a big poster that said, "Don't buy imported goods." So we were discussing quite a bit, how did Korea turn into this modern consumer economy? Back just 30 years ago, they were considering a betrayal of their country if they buy foreign goods or imported goods. So that's one question that I had to Andrew and the team to see, to try and understand why Koreans are interested in buying things today that are imported, and what is the relationship with imported products, especially in food and beverage. So I'm really looking forward to see what you think about that.
Sure. I think June can actually answer this question quite well. June, would you like to answer the first question?
Yeah. I actually see this to answer your question. I try to find the answer from the aspect of sociology. Actually, when I was young, we were taught and we were told that if we buy like made in Korea products, we are considered patriots. And if you're a patriot, then you have to buy Korean products. And even until like 25 years ago, when we were importing some like animation from Japan or Hollywood movie from the US, you actually we could not really use their English name or Japanese name because that was considered not right. So your in Japanese animations, their names were not in Japanese but in Korean. That was until like 25 years ago, but a lot of things changed. Now buying Korean products are not considered patriots, and I see the reason from my perspective is not. I think there's a change of like in our society, the overall thought of being patriot is changed. So now is when purchasing goods, it doesn't really matter you become patriot or not, a patriot or not. It really matters if these goods are value for money, and if so. To answer your question, the social the society in Korea changes, and it has changed very quickly in 25 years, in accordance with quick, fast, rapid economic growth in Korea.
But then I was also wondering about the quality, the perception towards quality, because previously, apparently, Koreans invested so much money into developing Korean products to be higher standard than anything imported. But also, I remember talking to Andrew earlier this week, and he said actually that has been changing too. So there are more imported products that can easily outcompete the Korean products, right?
Yes, that's right.
Maybe I can add to that, June.
Yeah.
Yeah. So certainly the impression on imported goods has changed. Yes, like June mentioned, if you're a patriot, you had to buy Korean products. But now, more, they're looking for value for money, of course. And I did mention before that, imported products or not imported products, people are looking for quality. For example, like let's say you want to purchase a bottle of wine, but you don't want to purchase a bottle of wine produced in Korea because Korea just don't produce a quality wine. So you wouldn't want to buy something from France or South Africa or America or for any European countries, but you don't buy a wine from Korea.
So it sounds like people want to buy the lifestyle that foreign goods can bring them.
Yes, certainly, because
so before the preferred lifestyle was being a patriot, and now the preferred lifestyle is the citizen of the world and quality life.
Yes, of course, because of the globalization and everything. Korea, there are so many Koreans living overseas, especially in Western countries, and these guys are bringing in a lot of the West culture into Korea, and people love it. Of course, not every product succeeds, but you bring a Krispy Kreme or Dunkin' Donut or McDonald's. Those are just one single example of how the lifestyle and the general perception towards imported goods has changed, and people are eating hamburgers.
The biggest shock was the amount of coffee shops in Seoul when I visited.
Oh, it's the most in the world. It's the most. Seoul has the most coffee shops per square meter. I think that's how they calculate it in the world.
So then you need to match that vibe and that lifestyle as long as you're exporting. So I wonder, because I shared with you quite generously, and thank you very much for your patience, to all three of you, about all the Lithuanian products that have been the members of the Association of Baltic Gastronomy Leaders. And we already asked you to give us some initial feeling about those products. So where do you think these Lithuanian products could stand in relation to this lifestyle that the Korean consumers desire? Do you think that's at all suitable? What do you think would be the challenges, and how much of these products do you think have any potential at all?
But June, would you like to answer that too? I think You
Yeah, I
had a
think he
very
did
good
a lot
insight.
of research,
Yeah.
and I do
Oh,
have
he
one of
loves
those
this.
papers.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, to answer the question directly, what's my initial feeling about the brands? To be honest, I didn't feel any particularly positive feelings or negative feelings, because actually for Koreans and majority of Koreans, um, if you ask them about the brand or the value of the brand of Lithuania or Lithuanian products, I would say people will be kind of neutral because they're not really familiar with Lithuania. And so my initial feeling is that if the product is value for money, yeah, it's gonna be it's gonna have a lot of big potential. But if it's not value for money, then yeah, we have to find another way. But being Lithuanian product has one big advantage, which is Lithuania is part of European Union, and for Koreans, the thing that you have to understand about how Koreans are thinking is that for us, made in America or American is really familiar with us, but for European brands or something that is European, we feel like is quite far from us. And if anything that is from Europe, it is generally considered high value, high quality, and high standard products. So being Lithuanian, for me, I would say I'm neutral. But if we are to use European Union, the brand, then I think it's going to have a lot of potentials. We Koreans have prejudice, especially Koreans have prejudice about Europeans. So that's why people tend to think anything that's coming from European Union is better than American or any other imported goods.
I'm really happy
사실
how
제가 one thing I want to comment. 그러니까 사실 상대적으로 바라보면 한국이라는 나라도 사실 뭐 스웨덴이나 이런 동유럽 쪽에는 많이 알려져 있지 않다라고 얘기를 들었어요. 그래서 삼성보다는 한국보다는 삼성이 더 많이 알려져 있고, 그러니까
예.
그런적인 측면에서 좀 타겟팅된 마케팅이 필요하다. 예, 어떤 특정 제품에 대해서 그렇게 좀 말씀을 드리고 싶어요.
What Brett just wanted to add was that he heard that in countries like Sweden or those Baltic or Northern Baltic countries, the name South Korea is not so much familiar to those people, but the name Samsung is very familiar to them. So it's a similar context of what Jun just said. To Koreans, maybe the name Lithuania is not so familiar, but the name European Union is very, very familiar. And we automatically relate that to what Jun said, high quality, high standard, reliable product. So that's what just Brett wanted to add.
I just like how June was very clear with his self-identification as a prejudiced Korean, because I think if I was saying it, that would be totally politically not correct. But it's so refreshing and important then to have the local people, doing the work with the locals, so that you can be very clear and upfront with whatever is really happening. Otherwise, like with all this political correctness that we have today, everything gets lost in translation a lot of the times. So I really liked that insight. Thank you very much.
Just please don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not politically biased in any way, but I'm just trying to deliver what usual Koreans think.
Yes, I understand. And I couldn't say that, in a webinar publicly as a European, right? Then the third question that I was very curious about was private label, because for a lot of the products that we reviewed, it seems like private label would be a better option, because Koreans still have a very strong traditional food culture. And so it's very difficult sometimes to present an imported product 100% as it is in its own native market. And we have this challenge here in China as well. So the best products, the ones that perform best, are usually quite a bit localized and quite a bit adapted to the market. So I wanted to talk to Brad because he has so many years of experience in research and development departments of these big Korean brands, and he has worked with many imported brands to localize. I wonder, what was your experience there, and what are the important things to think about, and what were the general challenges that you have faced? And Brad is very strong in research and development, but he didn't focus so hard on English because his job didn't require him to, so we will need to translate.
I will be happy to translate that for him.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah. 박 이사님께서 좀 이 3번 질문
예,
아,
PB
예,
상품에
뭐.
대해서는 일단 한국에서는 주로 대기업들이 많이 쓰는 전략이라고, 대기업
예, 예.
식품회사나 대형 유통회사나 해외 제품을 이제 자사 브랜드화 시켜가지고 쓰는 전략이라고 일단 말씀을 드릴 수가 있고요.
Yeah, to start, what we call private label. In Korea, we use the initial PB, private brand. That's a strategy that many major big distributors use in Korea. Easy example is that they bring in a foreign product and they private label it into their own brand, and then they distribute it in Korea. 계속.
네, 그래서 한 가지 예로는 최근에 신세계 그룹이 미국의 유명 나파밸리 와이너리를 한 5천억인가 인수를 했어요. 그래서 아마 자체 신세계 브랜드로 아마 이제 수입이 되겠죠. 그런 식으로 PB 제품은 대기업들이 자사의 어떤 전략에 따라서 제품을 하는 경우가 상당히 많습니다. 적진 않고요.
So for an example, a recent example is there's a big major distributor in Korea called Shinsegae. That's a brother company of Samsung, all that family. So Shinsegae has they own department stores and E-Mart, which is the biggest hypermart or supermarket chain in Korea. So Shinsegae, they bought a Napa Valley winery in America recently. They acquired it so that they can produce a private label brand, a wine brand, using the winery's facility. So that's a recent example of what just happened in the private label industry, and a lot of major companies are doing a similar thing in Korea. They bringing a overseas brand and brand it in their own brand and then distribute it in Korea.
그래서 지금 이제 6월달에 그 수입 상품 박람회를 한국에서 있을 때 그 EU 세션 안에다가 이번에 한번 그 제품 출품하고 소개를 하시려고 하시잖아요. 그러니까 그런 이번에 이제 그러니까 소개를 하면서 제가 아는 네트워크 대기업들이나 이런 네트워크들을 최대한 활용해서 그들에게 한번 그러한 소개된 제품들 위주로 해서 한번 제안은 해볼 수 있겠다. PB 상품이라든지 그렇게.
예, 이사님의 경험을 조금 얘기해 주실 것 같은데요. 그러니까 이런
예를
PB
들면
제품을 만들고 하는데.
제가 이제 대상 회사 식품 회사에 근무할 때 청정원이라는 브랜드로 유럽의 헝가리 쪽이었나요? 헝가리에서는 이제 건조 사과 제품, 아주 대규모 그 농장에서 이제 건조까지 해가지고 가공까지 해가지고 판매하는 회사가 있었는데, 건조 사과 제품을 그 초콜릿까지 입힌, 그리고 건조 사과 100% 제품하고 그거를 수입해서 그 대상 청정원 브랜드로 판매를 한 적이 있었고요. 그 다음에 이태리 쪽에서는 치즈 스낵 제품을 컨택을 해서 저희가 이제 직접 대상 직원들이 직접 그 연구원 마케터가 직접 뭐 이탈리아, 헝가리까지 공장을 시찰하고 그 담당자 미팅하고 여러 가지 이제 생산 수입 계획을 짜가지고 그런 식으로 이제 직접 수입해서 운영해 본 적이 있습니다.
So what Brett is adding is that you guys, there is an exhibition scheduled in June, and it's through these kind of exhibitions that you can introduce your products, and we can invite, Brad can invite the people that he knows in the industry, the major players in the industry, to come and have a look at the products, and from there they can discuss with you about the possibility of doing a private label on your products. And regarding his experience, he had when he was working for this one of the major distributors in Korea called Daesang. They're one of the major food brands. They use a brand called Cheongjongwon. I don't know if you know this. It's a paint stroke circle. That's their logo. So when he was working there a few years ago, he remembers he sourced semi-dried chocolate-covered apple from Hungary. Yeah, and there was a producer, manufacturer of that product in Hungary. So he went there with his team, and they discussed the private labeling, and they managed to import and distribute that product in Korea. Another case, they did a cheese, the same company, they developed cheese stick snack brand. It was imported from Italy. So the same thing happened. The whole team flew, inspected the facility, and discussed with the Italian side, and they imported private brands into Korea under Daesang brand. So that's his experience.
So looks like a lot of effort needs to go into developing any brand for South Korea. Really interesting. I wonder if anybody here has any questions, because if no questions, then we can let Brad and June go and just go through the next steps regarding the exhibition. And Andrew will tell you a little bit about what options there are, what could be the next steps this year, and how this would go. Anybody? Nope. Okay, so Brad and June, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope to see you in the near future as soon as I can leave my lockdown. Oh, Jonas has a question. Okay, let's just give him an opportunity.
Hi guys, thank you for introduction. I saw like some contacts of you. Maybe you can somehow share LinkedIn's or whatever emails, because I have like certain questions about probably like industry of cosmetics. So I would like just probably to write to private message, if it's okay.
You can send all inquiries to Justina. I will leave an email here in the chat. June, Brad, and Andrew specialize in food, and our main activity this year will be food. So perhaps this question shouldn't go to Brad or June, but we can refer you to the right people in this exhibition or within the KOIMA, the Importers Association, who you could talk to. So
Okay.
just a brief email. I just left the email in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
I see that you also mentioned food supplements. So that is also much more tricky as compared to food. So, you know, let's just say we have 40 people, you know, working on any brand. So if we want to try and do food supplements, we need 40 more. So for now, we're not interested. We can't help you. It's too much work.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
혹시 방금 전 질문이 어떤 내용이죠?
네.
뭐 화장품 쪽 뭐 관련해서 얘기하시는 건가요?
네. Sorry, Lena, just Brett is asking about what Jonas just asked. He was just curious. 예, 화장품 그 관련해서 화장품이랑 저 식품 그 서플리멘트 있잖아요. 그런 거 관련해서 질문을 하시려고 하는데 자세한 내용은 이제 좀 메일로 써서 보내주시겠다고 해서 그거를 리타오 측에서 저기 인터셉트 했어요. 그래서 그쪽으로 보내는 걸로.
네. I have also experience in the cosmetic company in Korea and food supplements, so you can give us any information about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So what Brett is saying that if you could send your inquiry to Justina, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions. Whatever we can answer, we'll try to answer at our best.
We'll connect you with the right people. That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
It's not easy for any of us. We should be a team.
True.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think, yeah, Brad and June, thank you for your participation today. We'll just go through the next slides, and maybe Andrew, you can tell a little bit about what we have in mind and how this would go after the exhibition. So in short, Andrew and Brad for sure will be at an exhibition in June at the booth. And June might join or not, depending on their availability. And this is the outline of potential things that could happen after the exhibition. So for example, if the product doesn't really work out very well for Korea yet, then definitely the team could give you suggestions on what to do and how to proceed. If the product needs some kind of upgrade, actually, Andrew found a very good partner called Solution. That is a brand building company for South Korea in particular. So we could collaborate with them. If your product is seen as a great product for Korea, then it's just about a matter of following through with the inquiries and listing it online. And I have a big feeling that probably many of the products will be, on the pathway to private brand, not even private label. So in such a case, Andrew can help you with Samsung, because they have a lot of experience working with them in the past 3 or 4 years. And the outcome of the whole year would be participating in the exhibition in November, where you could do a serious brand launch, because that is how Andrew and his team started initially. Maybe you have something to add? This is just one of our clients. Algis, thank you. I hope you don't mind us using your logo.
I think you just explained it very simply and clearly. So, but I should mention that we would bring in all our contacts into it will invite all our contacts to come to the June exhibition plus November exhibition. We will gather our network to do the press, the clients from major companies and distribution companies. We can bring in the social network marketers and things like that. If you want to launch product in Korea, you definitely need to go through social media marketing. So we've had experience with all these people, and we can bring in all these people into experiencing your product in the exhibition. So
yeah, I think the brands that I listed here, like Samsung, Wellstory, Coupang, and Solution, is people you have actually worked with. So it's not just a far stretch. It is somebody you can just pick up a phone and call them up and go, have a meeting. But another thing that you were telling me, which was very, very interesting, was about the merchandisers. So maybe you can tell me how that works, because I understand that from tasting the product till actually them purchasing the product, there is a whole process in Korea. Maybe now is a good time to explain a bit.
Sure. So this is a very general way of getting your product launched in Korea. So these distributors, the major companies will all have this division called merchandisers. And these guys are like procurement managers. So in short, in Korea, we just call them MDs, merchandisers, MDs. And these MDs are in charge of everything. They procure a new product to sell. And so they work out costs, and they come up with the selling price, the right selling price. They do all the market research that they need. They even intervene in packaging and labeling process, design process. Of course, they look into your quality control system, all your documents, and your production flow and everything. They would look into that. They're the ones who will come and visit your factory, your plant, if you're doing a private label with them.
And this is the same for both online
and offline, yeah,
and offline,
yeah.
both. This is the extent of control freak
yeah,
attitude
you can
that
say
they
that.
have, right?
Yeah. So these guys are very, very powerful in terms of their authority. These guys have
have passed all of their screenings previously when working with your product.
Yeah, we did.
You're a very patient person. And do they speak any English usually? Because when we reached out to them, Mona was calling them up, nobody could speak any English. But this seems to be the most important person to please in the whole,
That is true. That is true. And well, being Korean ourselves, compliance rules and things like that, I know they're strict, but they're simple. Strict but simple. Like, it's doable. But it just may take a long time to comply. But because we understand where to look and who to talk to, and it's not a corruption thing. It's all there. The information is all there. But it's just, if you're in the industry, then it's pretty simple for you. And if you
how long
probably
did it
have to be a
take for
Korean
your product to become compliant? A year?
Well, we took a shortcut.
Because of Brad,
took a shortcut. Right? Nothing illegal. Nothing illegal. We took a shortcut. That's why we actually manufactured the last bit of process in Korea. To make it into a made in Korea product. Then we use Korean factory facility, which has already passed the HACCP standard, ISO and everything. It's all there. So the facility wise, the compliance is met, and all we had to do was to prepare the necessary documents, and survey team would come and check out your facility and see the production flow, and that we passed that.
And then how long did it take?
That probably took about 4 months, 3 to 4 months.
And to summarize, I think 3 Koreans launching a brand still takes 4 months to comply. I think
that's with a shortcut. That's with a shortcut. Yeah.
That's something that I've heard a lot in Korea. That's why I never touched Korea until I met you, Andrew. So now all hopes are in you.
Okay, that's a big burden, but
cool.
yeah, going back to the story of MD. So these guys would be in charge of actually launching the product, and they're going to be your contact person throughout the whole distribution process. As long as you're distributing the product to these guys, then these guys are your contacts. The person might change because one might get promoted, one might get transferred, but the position of MD is always there. So but they're generally very nice. They're generally very open because they have to find a product to launch. So when we offer a good product at good price, it's a win-win situation. So they need a product to launch, and we need somebody to buy.
And basically it takes about a year to make sure that the product is good for launch and a good price and everything.
In our case, it was about 1 year because we had to send the samples back and forth, get feedback, and they want to make sure, even if the first samples passed, they want to get like 3 or 4 more samples just to make sure that we have a stability in our quality control system. you know, your first sample and second sample could be different. And if it's different, then we have a problem because your system is not stable. So these guys, even though we passed the first and second batch, but they would still require more sample testing.
Before
So
they are able to list you on the shelf, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Before they say yes. Yeah.
And then if they say yes, usually it is only for 2 shops out of 2,000 only for the first half a year or so.
Well, that depends. That depends on how certain the MD feels about your product. So for us, for Welligo brand, we started with probably like two branches of one of the Lotte small CVS convenience stores. 2, and then they found out that, hey, it's working. So they expanded, they gave us more room. So they expanded to like 4, 8, 10, and then nationwide. Yeah.
Cool.
So you'll go through that process too if we're
So
doing.
that's about go-to-market. It's so simple. Well, there is more detailed process that we will be sharing with everybody. I will not get into details. Basically, this is what we just discussed with Andrew. It's just a more structured way. And then I would just like to mention that this opportunity in June is for the brands to be represented by Andrew and the team, and it costs only 500 euros. And you will get feedback from the market and a very clear idea where your product could go next and what could happen with that. And in the next 6 months, we would like to be helping you develop that product further. If there is a lead, if everything goes well, then we would like to present that product in a European pavilion, which is called Europe Shares. And again, we're reinforcing this idea of made in EU rather than Lithuania origin to protect your interests, because a lot of the brands would be interested in working in other markets as well. And now this political situation is quite tight. We would like to have a dedicated brand booth for each brand in the COEX Food Week. And you would have somebody, if Andrew is not available, somebody who speaks fluent English as well, just to help you out. There's a little bit of information about where Litao is now, so we'll be sending it and sharing it with you later. And this is probably the most interesting slide. What would be the next steps, how much it could cost. So for a detailed proposal, you can talk to Romas, because this European Union project management usually is quite tricky and complicated. So even I don't know all the details, but these are the straightforward numbers and all the details you can get when you inquire. And we can work it out depending on your needs for each company individually. I think that's all we prepared today, and we're almost done with 1 hour. I wonder if anybody has any questions. Nope.
How much time we have to decide who is participating, who is
This year?
first show this in June?
In June. We would need to make a decision, I think, before June 1st, because we need the samples to be shipped so we can present them in the exhibition. I'm sorry, I didn't mention it. I just had it on the slide, in the very first slide. We hope to know the final participant list. For now, we already have, I think, 5 brands. They messaged me privately. I'll share with you, Romas, a bit later.
So I suppose it's done. Thank you, everyone. The situation, of course, when you're entering new market, it's not absolutely clear. There are a lot of questions, and some questions we don't know and we cannot ask them. But I think we have good opportunity and we can go through this working process, and I think we can be successful after 1 year in Korean markets. Maybe not with all brands, but with some of them, and I hope it will be okay.
Well, I just want to quote one of our clients. They said actually, you know, after working with Litao and with this new market, they started making better products for the native market because there is so much pressure from these merchandisers, MDs, to develop your product to the utmost. They can see what is your potential better than you can see yourself. So I think that's a very interesting takeaway that maybe working with Korean buyers can in the end result in you having better products for any buyers anywhere, because they will be taking you through a tedious step-by-step process that they don't necessarily openly share. Cool. So I think that's all for today then. Andrew, thank you so much for preparing and for thinking so much about our Lithuanian products and for
You're
agreeing
welcome.
to go on this adventure with us. Yeah.
It's my pleasure.
Cool. Okay, so we'll be waiting for people to sign up before June 1st. And you can talk to me, Justina, or Andrew, or Romas personally anytime if you have any questions. Yeah.
Okay, thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Have a nice
Goodbye.
day.
Thank you.
Greetings from
Thank you.
lockdown, day
Bye-bye.
62.